And another Monday morning. 2025, clearly underway now. Over the weekend, the amount of comments overnight, okay? People saying, you're talking rubbish, so who built them, What you need to realize, right, is when you decided, it's not a case of even when you decided, when they told you when you were younger that the Egyptians built the pyramids, right? Back then, you didn't know, when you were a child, that just Pyramid Giza alone weighs 6.5 million tons, okay? Now you know, right? You were taught stuff as a kid and you've grown up believing that stuff, right? And now, as an adult, you look at these things and go, hang on, 6.5 million tons of cut stone, the Egyptians. But instead of understanding, crunching the numbers yourselves, right, and saying, damn, that really is impossible, you're clinging onto this belief that the impossible was accomplished, right? Now, I am not claiming who built the pyramids. It does boil down to something fairly obvious, right? Because the impossibles are very obvious. And once you get rid of all of the impossibles, what's left is possible. Now, it isn't anybody's fault other than your own that you don't have the mental capacity to understand that as a child you were lied to about some things. The Egyptians shifting the equivalent weight of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers and using only copper hand tools to quarry the stones. If you cannot work out on your own as an adult that is impossible, then you're in trouble, because you're going to be stuck believing these absurdities, and every time somebody comes along to point out how impossible it is, by you clinging on to the absurdity and saying, no, I don't believe it, I was taught the Egyptians did it and that's it. That is your glitch, right? We have been lied to as children. Now, you will not get a more obvious lie than this, all right? You will not get a more obvious lie than this one. It is up to people individually to look at what they were taught, to crunch a few numbers, and then to come up with a logical out. Now, the only logical out when we're talking about the weight of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers being quarried out of anywhere by Egyptians wielding copper hand tools is impossible. If you do not let this go, right, then you're going to be stuck with the absurdities. I am not claiming who built them. What I am slam dunking is who did not build them, and the Egyptians had jack to do with the pyramids because the numbers don't add up, right? You can't say it any more clearer than that. So those, again, the abusive, you don't know what you're talking about, no. That is only because you are stuck believing something that is impossible. So when somebody comes along and gives you a logical out, you won't accept it because it goes against what you believe. So that is your fault, not mine. The Egyptians did not carve the equivalent weight of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers out of any quarry, and that is just to build Giza. Okay, you need to sit down and think about these things before you start throwing crap at me, because it's not sticking, okay? You're adults now. Well, you think that you would be adults, right? Can adults sit down and picture 6.5 million tons of cut sandstone, right? And then picture X amount of Egyptians quarrying that 6.5 million tons with copper hand tools? So if that is where you're at in the stage of your growth, you're on your own, right? I stick to my guns. The Egyptians had jack to do with this. They're ancient, right? There's a tide mark, a water mark running around the top of Giza. You can see the water marks is evenly across the rest of the pyramids, right? Listen, this is so obvious a slam dunk that it amazes me that people are still fighting it. You are not fighting against the facts. you're fighting against your own inability to be able to confront the facts as they are. Therefore, you're stuck in an illusion. And every time somebody comes along and points this out to you, you're always going to be the same. Because you cannot handle being told that you were lied to for so long, right? It's confronting, and I get that. But as adults, 6.5 million tons of cut stone, Egyptians with copper hand tools, adults with common sense, right, objectively should be able to work out what's what. Okay, that's all I'll say on this one. I'll be back with some more info on those stones later on. Latest peeps.